these past few months, I've realized that I've been lied to my whole life. I recently graduated college and I started working a 9-to-5 office job, like right out of college. And looking back, my whole life has led me down this path of averageness, and I fell right into that trap. I thought I was being unique in choosing what path I'd like to go down and, choosing my major or whatever, but and the promise of money, frankly, was very tempting. That I literally became a bot. I stayed in school. I went to a 4-year college. I got a job. In school, I was in a frat. I had a couple girlfriends. I had internships. But I was completely duped. And I started integrating and assimilating into the matrix. And the life that I was showing online through LinkedIn or through Instagram, or even in conversation with old friends that I haven't seen in a while, or family members I haven't seen in a while. Like, I was painting this portrait of this, like, just indoctrinated version of me. I was showing the world how indoctrinated I've become. And even in my lingo, man, like, I started saying shit, like, unironically, like, I'll follow up with you on that, or I have to circle back with you later, like, not even in emails. And I remember watching this anime called Ghost in the Shell. And there's a line from the protagonist that always stuck with me. And this came up on my Snapchat memories recently, so it's fresh in my mind. And she said, "I feel confined, only free to expand myself within boundaries." And she said so because, she's an AI or whatever, and she wanted to expand her consciousness, like, beyond the confines that was her machine robot body. But why do I bring this up? I bring this up because lately I felt like really confined myself. I felt confined too. I want to expand outside of this road that society has laid out for me, that I've been following my whole fucking life. The illusion of choice is real. You can choose to go to college, you can choose to go to trade school, you can choose to go to the military, you can choose your major, but really you're just choosing what bucket you want to be categorized in. It's become apparent to me that all these choices can only be made within the confines of what is socially acceptable. There's rules to live by. There's rules that society has for you, like, no, you can't date her. No, you shouldn't do that. So I feel like I've just been bullshitted my whole life because of that. Like, I feel like I've been told that this is reality, and when I complain to, like, my parents or some grown up, like, this sucks, like, I hate my job, they're like, oh, well, that's life. Welcome to life. You got bills to pay now. You got responsibilities. You have to work 40 or 50 hours a week, And in doing so, like, I've gotten pats on the back from my parents. I've gotten likes on LinkedIn for just conforming and being like a human, but everyone fucking hates their job. And I'm just joining this rat race, just chasing this cheese that's disguised as, like, success, chasing these temporary states of bliss. I go out on the weekends, or I have one vacation a year that I talk about for 3 years. Become a homeowner someday, become successful. And it's a rare feeling, but it's just enough to keep us going. Just enough money that you make, just enough time off, just enough PTO, just enough bonuses, just enough incentive. That's why life feels so dull. That's why the shit is gray. That's why we're pushed to be addicted to gambling. It's all like one big fucking trap, really. No conspiracies, but, like, it's literally just feels like a trap. I used to think that no one gets it, that I was unique in seeing that this rat race is like a real thing, and no one really understood that. But the more I grew up, the more I realized how many people do get it. We're just all beaten up by the world to give a shit. We're just so driven to just choose one thing. We're so eager to get out of this rat race that we just end up falling right into the trap. And we do share this mutual sense. It feels like that there's no hope. We share a sense of animosity and the realization that we're in this alone. You know, dreams die slowly. You know, people stick to their lanes. Hope dies. And it just so happens, you know, you develop these feelings around college age or when you graduate college and start a job. You know, there's no more dumb fun. Maybe you have responsibilities. Maybe you have bills to pay. Maybe there's a big enough carrot that you can trade. You can rent out your soul for a $60,000 paycheck, which to like a 22, 23-year-old, that's a lot of money. But now there's no more bullshitting, no more time for old games or passions. You just have to find your lane, develop a routine, and get your ass in line. You know, the rat race is about to begin. But recently, I went through some old journals of mine. And literally from my senior year of high school to picking my major to, you know, reflecting on like my first internship. And a common theme I saw was a warning to my future self to not be a corporate slave, to not follow the path. And that's exactly what I did. I became what my 16, my 18, my 20-year-old self didn't want to be. And reading that, I was like, damn, sorry, dude. Sorry, past version of myself. Like, I literally just became a slave. So I quit my job. I quit my job and nobody even cares. Nobody even gave me a phone call and said, we miss you, man. You know, you have to understand that the yellow brick road is bullshit. The Wizard of Oz himself is literally a fraud. It was all smoke and mirrors. That's where that term comes from. So take your own path. And if you don't know what that is, but it doesn't quite feel like you're on it, that's where I was. That's literally what I was. But you have to take a left turn to find it. Quit your job. Break up with her. Move cities. Go back to school. Restart. The world is your oyster.